Don't do long trips. I don't do long trips. What up, folks? Once again, this is your boy Tim with another ride sharing video. I don't do long trips in ride sharing, whether driving for Uber or Lyft, and I'm going to explain the reasons why. Unfortunately, I have went back on my mantra of not doing long trips recently as yesterday, and it just reiterated why I chose not to do long ass trips in the first place. Now, being clear, being candid, I understand this is market specific advice. I'm advising folks to avoid long trips, but I understand every market has a different set of metrics, different logistics that might make long trips in your market worthwhile. For instance, let's say you operate in the Bay Area, San Francisco, Oakland, San Jose, the Bay Area, or something of that nature. You may be able to get trips back and forth. You take a trip from one major metropolitan area to another bigger city or suburb, and there is always trips coming back. In that case, my advice is not as relevant. But for most markets throughout ride sharing in the United States, I believe what I'm about to suggest is relevant. I don't do long trips for a host of reasons. First of all, the pay is shit, and there is very rarely a trip coming back. Meaning, let's say you're operating in Chicago and you get a trip going to Aurora, one of the suburbs of Chicago, or even in some cases as far up as Milwaukee or far over towards the Indiana side. The chances of you getting a trip coming back is virtually zero. And because Uber and Lyft pay so low per mile, you don't earn enough on a long trip to make driving back empty worth your while. So in my humble opinion, it makes no sense to drive outside of the market you're currently in. Like I said, in the Bay Area, you got a host of, you got a very wide area where there's a lot of markets. So it's a different story if you operate in a market like that. Maybe in Los Angeles, you can take a trip from Los Angeles to Rancho Cucamonga somewhere and you're going to get a trip back. That's a different story, but that's not most markets. Additionally, I don't do airport trips for the simple fact that most of them often become long trips. Airports serve a wide range of cities and counties in the surrounding areas. Most airports may serve 5 or 6 counties surrounding that airport, sometimes even further. And taking a passenger from the airport to some distant location at the edge of one of those counties, you're probably not going to get a trip back. So once again, it also involves not having trips coming back and involves driving empty. So I don't personally do airport trips as well. Also, when it comes to airport trips, you're likely to have to provide assistance to the passengers. There's generally bags and things like that. If you are in a market that passengers routinely tip, then once again, my advice is not as much relevant. I certainly would have no problem assisting passengers in any capacity they need me in if I thought tips were reliable. But in this business, they are not. Tipping in this business is very low. Veteran drivers in the comments, what percentage of your passengers tip you? Feel free to drop that in the comments. I've asked this before in previous videos, and it's generally as low as 10% to maybe 30%. That's about the average most of us drivers in ride sharing tend to get. 30% of the passengers at best will tip you. So if you're going to be taking trips where passengers routinely require you to provide assistance, I don't want to engage in that if I'm only going to get a tip from 30% of them. I just personally, it's my choice not to deal with that. I understand there's a hell of a lot of good Samaritans in ride sharing that like taking long trips, helping people with bags, helping disabled passengers. I get it on every video. I like doing this. They need us. We're helping them. Okay, fine. If you're a good Samaritan, go catch a cat falling out of a tree. That's not my particular mantra. I'm out here for the money. Going to be honest with you, that is the only reason why I deal with ride sharing, is I'm out here to make money. I am not a Captain Save-A-Ho. I am not out here to save folks, get folks places, and help them out. If they're willing to pay for my work, I'll do whatever they ask. But when it starts to become charity, count me out. But maybe you are different. Nevertheless, I did a trip yesterday, drove to the airport, and took a passenger 40 miles outside of the market. Hadn't done it in a while, wasn't doing anything. He offered a earnings guarantee, so I just went ahead and took the trip. Totally reiterated why I said do not do long distance trips in the first place. 40 miles outside of my area, no trip coming back. The trip paid me less than $30. So I drove 10 miles to the airport, 40 miles on top of that, and my total take from Lyft was less than $30. Additionally, I had a passenger get out of the vehicle after helping them with their bags at the airport. They thanked me kindly and suggested they would tip me through the app. I literally wanted to turn around, get your bitch ass out the car with that bullshit. But like I said, I hate to get gutter like that, but for you folks watching the video, once again, my veteran drivers that have probably heard that phrase a million times, how often when you hear the phrase, I'm going to tip you through the app, how often does that turn into reality? For me personally, that is almost an indication of, you almost may as well say I have no intention on tipping you. It's almost literally a synonym for I have no intention on tipping you. I'll tip you through the app and I have no intention on tipping you virtually means the same thing when you hear it from a passenger. But once again, maybe in your market, you're seeing something different. But just wanted to run it by you because I've come to the conclusion that long distance trips are just simply not worth it. And in addition to that, the time it takes when Uber or Lyft gives you time predictions. This trip is going to take you 35 minutes to complete. Why are they almost always short on what their prediction is? 35-minute trip may be an hour. A 20-minute trip may turn out to be 45 minutes. They apparently have some other form of calculations that just simply does not go with what's happening in the real world. And I'm not just talking about when it's traffic or rush hour. I'm talking about even in the middle of the night. Their predictions are often fairly far off. For you folks, have you seen that? Maybe that's just something specific to where I'm driving. Have you seen when they give you calculations on how long you're going to drive? Do those calculations seem to be very far off? Because obviously, if you're wasting additional time, you should get paid for it. In the taxi business, if I remember as a child riding in taxi cabs, when you were sitting in traffic, that meter would still keep moving, even if the car only moved 2 feet in the last 10 minutes. That meter has been clocking extra money. In ride sharing, that does not apparently happen. If you are driving for Uber or Lyft and the trip takes 15, 20, 30 minutes longer than they predicted, you will still get the same amount of money that they promised you when they thought the trip was 30 minutes less. So that is 30 minutes of your time that you have given away for nothing. Once again, I stated earlier in the video, when it becomes charity, count me out. But maybe I'm seeing things differently in my market versus yours. What about you guys? Like I said, if you get a prediction on time from Uber or Lyft and it goes over, do they credit you anything? Have you ever called in and tried to get credit? Because this is why I'm starting to avoid long trips entirely. The amount of time added onto it, driving back empty, and there are other issues. Nevertheless, let your boy know in the comments as always. Subscribe to the damn channel, and I'll see you in the next video.